In modern football, money decides everything. And right now, no league has more money than the Premier League. From record-breaking TV deals to global audiences in the hundreds of millions, England's top division has become a financial giant. But how did one league become this powerful? And why is the rest of Europe struggling to keep up? The financial gap between the Premier League and the rest of Europe has grown dramatically over the last decade. Today, English clubs dominate the global football economy. In fact, Premier League teams consistently generate more revenue than clubs in Spain, Germany, Italy, or France. Even mid-table English sides now earn more money than some of Europe's most historic clubs. And that financial advantage is starting to show on the pitch. Premier League clubs regularly outspend their European rivals in the transfer market, offer higher wages to attract top talent, and invest heavily in infrastructure, academies, and global marketing. But this dominance didn't happen overnight. The foundations were laid decades ago through a combination of smart commercial decisions, global media expansion, and one of the most valuable broadcasting deals in sports history. To understand why the Premier League now sits at the center of football's financial power, we need to start with the engine that drives the modern game: TV rights. In 1992, English football changed forever. That year, the Premier League was created as the top clubs in England broke away from the old First Division. Their goal was simple: gain control of television rights and maximize the commercial potential of the league. At the time, it was a bold and controversial decision. But it proved to be one of the most important moments in modern football history. The newly formed league quickly secured a landmark broadcasting deal with Sky Sports, transforming how football was televised in the United Kingdom. Matches were marketed as premium live events, kickoff times were scheduled specifically for television audiences, and football began to dominate the weekend broadcasting schedule. Over time, the value of these TV rights exploded. In the early 1990s, domestic broadcasting deals were worth just tens of millions of pounds. Today, Premier League television rights generate billions. For the 2022 to 2025 cycle alone, domestic and international broadcasting deals combined were worth well over £10 billion. And crucially, this money isn't concentrated in just a handful of clubs. The Premier League distributes its broadcasting revenue far more evenly than most other European leagues. That means even teams finishing near the bottom of the table receive enormous financial rewards simply for being part of the league. As a result, clubs across the entire Premier League have far greater spending power than many of their European rivals. But the real explosion in revenue didn't just come from the UK alone. The real financial breakthrough for the Premier League came from the rest of the world. Over the last 2 decades, the Premier League has successfully turned itself into a truly global entertainment product. Today, matches are broadcast in more than 200 countries and territories, reaching hundreds of millions of viewers every week. And international broadcasters are willing to pay enormous sums for the rights to show those games. In fact, international TV rights have now become just as valuable as domestic broadcasting deals, something no other European league has managed to achieve. Part of the reason for this success is the league's ability to market itself internationally. The Premier League invested heavily in global promotion, built strong partnerships with overseas broadcasters, and embraced digital media to reach new audiences. But another key factor was the league's competitiveness. Unlike many other European leagues, where 1 or 2 clubs dominate year after year, the Premier League developed a reputation for unpredictability. Title races, relegation battles, and the constant threat of upsets made the competition exciting for viewers around the world. And that excitement translated directly into higher demand for broadcasting rights. As international TV deals continued to grow, the financial gap between the Premier League and the rest of Europe widened even further. All of that television money has dramatically changed the financial power of Premier League clubs. Today, English teams consistently outspend the rest of Europe in the transfer market. In recent years, Premier League clubs have accounted for well over half of the total transfer spending across Europe's top 5 leagues. But the real difference isn't just how much the biggest clubs spend, it's how much everyone in the league can spend. In Spain, Germany, or Italy, financial power is often concentrated in just a handful of teams. Clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or Juventus dominate their domestic markets. But in England, the money is spread far more evenly, thanks to the Premier League's revenue-sharing model. Even clubs in the bottom half of the table receive enormous broadcasting income every season. In fact, television revenue alone means that even clubs finishing near the bottom of the Premier League often earn more money than some Champions League regulars in other European leagues. That means teams finishing in the middle to low end of the table can still afford transfer fees of 30, 40, or even 50 million. And when English clubs compete for players on the global market, they often have a decisive advantage: higher wages. For many players, the Premier League offers not only prestige, but also the most lucrative contracts in world football. The result is a league where financial strength runs far deeper than anywhere else in Europe. And that depth has allowed English clubs to attract talent from across the continent, widening the gap between the Premier League and its rivals even further. As the Premier League's financial strength has grown, the impact on the rest of European football has become increasingly clear. Across the continent, many clubs now face a difficult challenge: competing in a market where English teams often have far greater spending power. In recent transfer windows, Premier League clubs have consistently been responsible for the majority of spending among Europe's top leagues. That financial advantage allows English teams to attract players not only from smaller leagues, but also from some of Europe's biggest clubs. Talented players from Spain, Germany, Italy, and France are increasingly drawn to the Premier League by the combination of higher wages, global exposure, and the competitiveness of the league itself. For many clubs across Europe, this creates a difficult cycle. Rising financial pressure forces them to sell their best players, often to English teams, while trying to remain competitive domestically and in European competitions. Some leagues have attempted to respond by tightening financial regulations or focusing more heavily on youth development. But the financial gap created by the Premier League's global broadcasting deals remains enormous. Continue to grow. The economic power of English football shows no signs of slowing down. Premier League's financial dominance didn't happen by accident. It was built through a combination of ambitious commercial strategy, global broadcasting deals, and a competition that captured the attention of audiences around the world. Today, that success has transformed English football into the center of the sport's economic power. With billions generated through TV rights and international audiences continuing to grow, Premier League clubs now operate with financial resources that many of their European rivals simply cannot match. And as long as that gap remains, the balance of power in European football is likely to continue shifting towards England. The question is no longer whether the Premier League leads football's economy. The real question is just how far that dominance will go and what it means for the future of European football.